Hey, what's up? How you been?
Doing well, doing well. Good to see you
Yeah, good to
or
see
hear
you
from
too.
you.
Yeah, true. I guess I probably can't even turn my camera on because I have
Yeah.
fucking OBS. Yeah, I don't think you've been on stream before, on this one at least. I think you've been on like Cropper stream before, right? Or
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've ever been on a stream with you, I think. I know
hmm
we've been in group chats before.
Yep,
Um,
exactly. The fucking big brain shit.
yeah, yeah.
All the people interested in objectivism who were falling away or already out of it, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
That's how it goes
see.
though. That's
So
the
what so you were saying that you have been dabbling a little bit in existentialism. Just like if
uh
you were I mean, I personally I am not a fan of it really, but you said you were reading what was it?
Oh, I haven't read much of it. I just think some of the concepts can be interesting. Um,
Hmm.
just like
Yeah.
the whole like Sisyphus shit, where it's like, oh, he pushes up
Yeah.
the rock up the hill, and like that's basically life. It's just a cycle every day. But then you
Yeah,
actually
that
find
stuff's
fulfillment.
garbage.
You find fulfillment because you just accept it, basically.
Yeah, that like that Camus Myth of Sisyphus stuff, that yeah, that's garbage. I read his
Hmm.
The Stranger, and that's the one about the guy that ends up killing the Arab, and he forgets the day that his mom dies, basically.
Hmm.
It's bullshit. The book, it's not very good.
Why do you
Um
say that?
what's that?
Why do you say that?
It's very pretentious.
Hmm.
It's very overrated. That's one thing. Also, it just regurgitates really like banal truisms. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, things are gonna suck, right? Okay, there's things that are absurd, like um, like situations that we all get ourselves into,
Hmm.
right? And but that does not mean the entirety of one's life is absurd. Nor does it mean that everyone else they're in on it,
Hmm.
essentially. So in the end of the book, here I'll spoil it for you because it's just bad. At the end of the book, so he's arrested after killing the Arab, and
Hmm.
everyone is basically blaming the guy, the main character, for everyone else's problems, right? And he just ends up accepting it,
Hmm.
basically. He's just like, oh well, okay. It's really uh, boring, if you want to put it just in simple
Interesting.
terms. It's not very. Um, it seems like it was probably written by like an edgy college student. Now,
Hmm.
if you want to find some good existentialism, I would recommend Soren Kierkegaard. Now, his
Hmm.
stuff is very good,
Yeah,
especially his Either Or.
I was
That's a
interested in
really
him
good
more
book.
when I was religious. I don't know. He's the religious existentialist, so
Uh,
kind of gross.
his stuff is, let's see. I mean, he does bring up religious themes,
Hmm.
but like for example, in his Either Or, that actually um, it doesn't dabble in religion too much,
Yeah.
hardly any at all. It's very good.
Hmm.
It was actually one of the first philosophical books that I read full length. Like I read all the way through.
Okay.
Um, it was really good in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, yeah.
What would you say is like the main
What?
thing that you got out of that?
Hmm. Let's see. I would have to say it would have been to appreciate. So, what I got out of Kierkegaard was to appreciate the complexity of perilous situations that we often find ourselves in when we are overcome with, it might be grief, it might be like despair, or uh, having a lack of direction in life.
Hmm.
So, for example, a college student who is on the verge of dropping out, let's say. They're totally lost. They're isolating themselves from other people. They're in a miasma of depression, basically. They're totally lost. Now, Kierkegaard, he points out that this is a natural fact of human life, and we all have to go through this in some form or another. And he really elegantly illustrates the difficulty of having to overcome this and having to push through it. Now, for Kierkegaard, he focuses very heavily on the nature of human personality and how it is very dynamic. It manifests itself in different ways, and how we can. What's that?
Or with the earlier thing, I guess is that kind of similar to the I guess stuff with Camus, like just the acceptance of stuff and like pushing through it, or what would you say is the main difference between those two?
I would say the main difference that I would say that Camus, he's just like accept it. Now Kierkegaard, on the other hand, is like, no, we can transcend this, and it is Kierkegaard. Well, he's often memed as being like, oh, despair, oh, the life, it's all short and miserable, death, eternal, all this kind of stuff. He offers a much more a positive outlook. So an outlook like, okay, let's embrace it, right, and let's make the leap. Let's go through this together and overcome it. Now, for Kierkegaard, this involves a kind of a leap of faith. So now you could take this in multiple directions. One, you could take it as just being like, okay, Christ is my savior. We could have this God is this ideal which we can strive after together. Essentially, there's this golden light or bright light at the end of the tunnel. Let's all take the leap of faith and push towards that together. Right, and let's overcome this darkness. Now, you could also take this as the whole leap of faith as being emblematic as, okay, I'm in this situation right now. I need to get out of it. The more I overthink it, the more that I go on mellowing in my own, essentially. The more that I despair about it, and the more that I pity myself over it, I dig myself into a deeper and deeper hole. Now, the leap of faith.
I guess.
Yeah, go on.
I guess a lot of this stuff, it doesn't sound all too different. It just sounds like you're framing it kind of different. Like Camus like argues about like. You have to accept the like bad situation that you're in and like get through it. And Kierkegaard doesn't. I mean, apart from like the religion thing, he doesn't really say much different. It's more just like accept, like see the beauty in maybe like whatever the struggle is. Stop overthinking it, accept it, and move forward. Essentially,
I would say the acceptance. Sort of I would say the acceptance is not one of like, okay, let's accept our present situation as it is and stay there. I think with Kierkegaard, it's more like this. So despair and the absurd, that's not all there is meaning. And this meaning is something which we strive after as an ideal. And in order to reach this, we get there through a leap of faith, basically. Yeah. So there's no paved way for us. However, we can make that leap and trace it ourselves, basically, trace that path. It's kind of like not blind per se, but we have to work for it. Now with Camus, on the other hand, all of that work is going to get you nowhere. Essentially, it's going to get you right back where you started, just like Sisyphus with the boulder. Now with Kierkegaard, though, it's like, no, that's bullshit. You will, you have that golden ticket, basically, with that leap that you could take. And you can transcend this. You can overcome the absurdity and find meaning in life. And that meaning is not going to be tarnished or itself, it's not going to be tarnished by the absurd. Rather, it's going to transcend the absurd and overshadow it. So for Kierkegaard, it's much more. I personally find it much more satisfying than Camus. Camus, it's just like an edgy emo phase, basically, that doesn't amount to anything in the end. Well, with Kierkegaard, it's much more adult and appropriate, and it's much more perceptive of the nuances and possible ways going forward that are not mere that don't involve mere acceptance of the situation and wallowing in it. So that's what I would have to say about that.
Yeah,
but I guess so.
Yeah, I guess my impression of Camus has always been that the idea is that you like find meaning in the struggle, and that allows you to transcend it. It wasn't as much like wallowing in that fact, but I don't know. It just I don't know. It seems like I feel like I can see how they're similar. I guess it's harder for me to see like the major difference between the two. But I think maybe if I guess I understand how Kierkegaard could possibly be better if it's like more about like overcoming your present state. I guess where does he believe that you can find meaning from your impression?
Well, one thing, God. It's kind of like,
so he's like the God existentialist essentially.
Yeah, basically.
Just believe in
finding meaning
something.
In Jesus Christ. Yeah, finding meaning in Jesus Christ essentially, and his sacrifice on the cross, basically. That is, for Kierkegaard, that is the keystone, the cornerstone rather of meaning for him. So this it's now, for Kierkegaard, it's not something which can be rationally affirmed ultimately. Rather, it has to be done through faith, and it's something that has to be embraced, not blindly, but it's rather it's knowingly done. It's knowingly affirmed. It's not something which is fallen back on a last resort. Rather, it's something that involves a lot more. It involves a sense of agency and control of one's own situation, or controlling and lifting oneself out of this particular situation through adopting God essentially as this ideal source of meaning.
But if he doesn't believe it's like rational,
there, it's not.
If he doesn't believe that that's rational though, and it's an entire is just a leap of faith. Well, I mean, how's that different from blind faith? I guess how does knowing that knowing that it's blind and making the intentional jump to that any less blind than?
I mean, one might say that it's blind. It's. I think we would have to view blind. I guess it all depends upon what you mean by it. I guess for Kierkegaard, he would look at it in terms of historical context. So the context of Christianity and all of the parallelism, the archetypes and things like that, which you find in different faiths around the world, and looking at how these archetypes embody themselves, and for example, in Jesus. And through the particular traditions and things like that, those can be affirmed and viewed as a source of meaning, which we can embrace through a leap of faith. Now, whether or not this is blind, I would say that it's more or less it's based or grounded in the kinds of archetypes that we kind of point out in mythology, in stories, in human character. So I think it's not so much blind as it is more or less geared, or more or less based around I don't want to say even intuition, but our capacity for grasping certain kinds of archetypes and characteristics that we find throughout the human experience. And that's something which Kierkegaard would say embodies itself in the fullest extent, or to the fullest extent, in Christianity. So I would say that. So I wouldn't call it blind. I would say it's more or less based upon I guess what I just said. There's these archetypes that we find manifested in particular aspects of the human experience, and those those archetypes manifest themselves in the highest and most complex forms in Christianity.
Sure. I guess so. That seems like a very fragile base for meaning. I guess just the idea that you're jumping to a figure that you don't really have any basis for its existence apart from human beings believed in this in the past and got meaning from that in the past.
Yeah, Kierkegaard would say, this is something which cannot be affirmed through argument. But he would say that, well, I have my source of meaning. Mm-hmm. Too bad for you. He might say something along those lines.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that'd probably be my biggest problem with Kierkegaard, I guess, is just that, I guess, from your characterization of him, I guess, because it seems like that's just not, for most people, that's going to cause a lot of cognitive dissonance, and it really just feels like that's not...
I think it's not
a real basis for where you're going to get life's meaning from. You need something real, almost.
I would say that looking to the experience as a whole, I would say that's definitely a good start. But now, what we extrapolate from that's a different story. So I would say that meaning is... so everything, I would say, is endowed with meaning. You can't find anything that's absent in terms of meaning.
Endowed with meaning. Endowed with meaning by whom? By
what's
human
that?
beings? What does that mean by meaning? What do you mean by meaning?
So I would say that every concrete and actual thing, so all actual beings, so whether it be a cup, a table, a chair, a natural object, an artifact, a person, all of these beings, these unities, they're essentially unities of meaning. And by meaning, this is, of course, what's the meaning of meaning?
Yeah.
I would say that meaning is that particular kind of content. By content, I don't know if that's even definable, but that's a particular kind of content which is capable of being appreciated, valued, and shared by subjects, by conscious subjects. And now, there might be a time, indeed, when there were no conscious subjects at all. However, millions of years later, there might indeed, and there are, of course, conscious subjects who could appreciate and value those, for example, like the, billions of years ago, when there was, billions and billions of years ago when there was no Earth, of course, and there was only gaseous masses in the what would become later the solar system. Those very beings, at that particular moment in time, there might not be any subjects there to appreciate it, to value it, to act on it, to share it with others through ideas and universals, articulating ideas and universals.
Do those things still have meaning, though? Before
yes.
Subjects? Why? I guess
they would have meaning by virtue of subjects appearing later on.
But
so the
meaning,
fact that they could be
meaning to whom? I mean, I guess they would have meaning later to the subjects, but those subjects don't exist yet, I guess. So it doesn't. So it's like potential meaning, maybe potential.
So
meaning?
I would say I hold to a kind of block universe theory, So I hold that past, present, and future, it's much more. So it's not the case that only the present exists. Both the past and the future are real, on my view, even though it might not appear that way. So it is, in a sense, the case that those past beings, the beings of the past, they do have meaning at those particular times by virtue of the being of conscious subjects here and now. The fact that they can be appreciated here and now shows that they must have had some kind of intelligible relation to our present knowledge at this particular moment in time. They are themselves knowable. Those masses of particles and whatnot, asteroids and so on, those particular beings, while they might not be perceptible to us now, they are nevertheless within the realm of intelligible knowledge. They could be, they're beings which they are beings that can be spoken of. They could be understood. We could even map out where they were in space and time.
Mm-hmm.
They might not have. Yeah.
But I guess everything you're saying is like, oh, they could have this, they could, or they're intelligible, or like it's not something where like at t equals like 600 or 0 or whatever, where there's no actual subjects yet. Like I don't think it makes sense to talk about meaning without a subject that is in existence at that time, because
but they are known now though. So we do have knowledge of them now.
Yeah, but it would make no difference at that time, like if those things didn't
I would
exist.
say, because I hold to a theory of internal relations. So I maintain that all relations are fundamentally internal. So everything is related to everything else. Such that the fact that we are able to know that we're able to have knowledge of and know about these particular beings in the past shows that they have a nature such that their nature is meant, they are constituted in such a way at that very time when there were no subjects, but they're nevertheless still constituted in such a way that they are to be known at a later time. So they still have a knowable structure, even though there are no subjects in existence at that time. There's a famous paradox known as the Fitch's knowability paradox. Mm-hmm. And it rests upon the following things. All truths are knowable. This is something that Rand would affirm, because she says that truth is a relation between human subjects and reality. So there's no independent truths. And also, another thing too. Knowledge of a conjunction implies knowledge of the conjuncts. So a conjunction is like, I know A and B. So that means I know A and I also know B. Now, if you accept those premises, right, it would follow that there are no truths that are unknown. In other words, all truths are known, because all truths are knowable, and knowledge of a conjunction implies knowledge of conjuncts. And the reason is this. There are certain propositions which would, in order for there to be, in order to maintain that, if someone maintains that all truths are knowable, but some truths are unknown at the present time, right? But they also maintain that knowledge of a conjunction implies knowledge of the conjunct. That would imply a contradiction, ultimately. So wait,
you're arguing that all things so you're arguing that like all truth is like known currently? I don't know what that even means.
I would maintain that.
At this present moment in time.
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Oh yes, it does. Oh fuck. I actually let's see here. I could show you. I mean the argument's kind of confusing and long. But I can at a later time, because these arguments
there's no actual person who possesses that knowledge at this moment. Like who knows this?
Or there could be infinitely many subjects, really, scattered throughout the universe that might know all all truths, essentially. So there could be a god or a couple of gods that know all the truths. There could be, you could take a view that there's, infinitely many knowing subjects out there which know all the truth. Yeah, go on.
So does this argument like necessitate a god, or like
many people have interpreted that way?
If there is no, I don't. Okay, wait. Explain the argument again, because
Sure.
there has to be
Sure.
one of the premises or something has to, because it's obviously not the case that all truths are known, unless we consider like truth by definition to be something that's known by somebody. But otherwise, like all like possible knowable things, that's
so. Let me actually
absurd.
Pull up. Let's see here. Let me pull up the. Let's see here. The argument. It goes like this. If I could find the damn thing. Here we go. Okay. So it goes like this. So here's the paradox. So if you accept that all truths are knowable, right? And you also accept that knowledge of a conjunction implies knowledge of the conjuncts, and you also accept that there are some truths at this moment which are unknown by any subject in the entire universe, you have a contradiction on your hands. Because one of those propositions would have to go. So you can't say all statements are knowable, all humans are not omniscient, and some statement T is true and not known by any human. If you accept those three things, then a contradiction results. And that contradiction is...
Okay, wait. So the three things... say the three things again.
Sure. All statements are knowable.
All statements are knowable.
All humans are not omniscient.
Okay, I would agree with that second one. The first one, maybe not, but...
And, so all statements are knowable. All humans are not omniscient, so they don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And some statement T is true right now and not known by any human.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some statement T is true and not known by any human implies that it is possible that it is known that T is true, and it is not the case that T is known. So there's a famous paradox by G.E. Moore. I know that it's raining, but I don't believe that it's raining. I personally don't get it, really. But the statement checks out, though. And if you... essentially, long story short, I could go over it in a long time because I'm actually in my car right now. So I don't have any pens or paper in front of me. I'm on my phone.
Is the first proposition that like the truth of all possible statements is knowable?
You could say for example,
like the truth value of it, basically, like whether it's true or false.
Let's see here. Bertrand Russell is dead, right? At this very moment in time.
Yeah.
So for example, that is known right now by someone, according to this. If we accept the proposition that all statements are knowable, or all truths are knowable, rather, and we also accept that knowledge of a conjunction implies knowledge of the conjunct.
Knowledge of a conjunction.
And
so wait, okay, knowledge of a conjunction is knowledge that like A and B are true.
Yeah. So
that implies the knowledge that A is true and B is true. Or
I know A and B So here is a conjunction. So I know A and B.
Yep, I know that.
And then I know A and I know B. So the first thing implies this thing.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. So if you accept these things, and you also accept that all truths are knowable,
yep,
then you essentially result in a contradiction.
Where's the contradiction?
And if you also accept that is some truths are unknown. So let me add that too. So some truths are unknown.
Mm.
So if you accept, some truths are unknown, all truths are knowable, and knowledge of a conjunction implies knowledge of the conjuncts. So if you accept this one, oh shit, 1, 2, and 3. So if you accept 1, 2, and 3, a contradiction ensues. And I sent in a picture using, unfortunately, the guy that made it. It's like
wait, one of the premises, like some of the premises just don't actually make sense in that picture.
It's worded strangely.
Well, it said it's known that T is the case, and it is not the case that T is. Well, if you know that T is the case, then like T is known by like the premises are literally contradicting themselves.
Because it's implying, so the first because one of the premises, so it's a reductio, essentially. So one of the premises is a statement that is let's see here. So it's possible to know that T is true, and let's see here. It is knowable that T is the case, and it is not the case that T is known. That falls from 5. Let me actually, let me just go to the Wikipedia site and find the actual thing, how it's laid out. Because the guy that did it essentially is Carneades, and I don't think he actually wrote out the argument correctly. I think there was actually a mistake somewhere in there. Let's see here. Yeah. So this paradox of knowability. Okay. So I'll let you go over that if you want to. Yes, I just got home actually, so I'm gonna probably head out for now. But I'll be watching your stream though. So
yeah, I'll have to probably look at this off stream, but I don't know. There's something.
Yeah, no worries.
It just, I don't know. It seems like because, we know that there's, truth is being discovered, right? Like there's things that, I guess in historically we know that there were things that weren't known by any single person, but now we know them. Like for example, the human genome is, determined. I guess maybe this isn't entirely, it's not entirely determined, or the way that a human being looks is determined by the DNA, their DNA, for example. We didn't even know DNA existed back then. So who knew this? I guess that's the problem there. It seems like
right.
You can't. I don't believe that you can make some argument like this and then just deny basic things in reality. I think there has to be some place in there where you're conflating two different words that or a word that means two different things and using it in two different ways, or there has to be something wrong there, basically, because I can look at the world and see hey, this is the case. We see that certain things are unknown by people and then later on they're known. So maybe if you believe that like all truths that are knowable will be known in some time, and
Yeah.
you believe that like time doesn't exist basically,
Right.
then maybe that makes sense. But
Right.
I think apart from that, it just like
Yeah.
contradicts
Personally, so
it
I would
contradicts
accept
basic
something like
facts in
that.
reality. Like
I
it
would accept
contradicts.
something like what you just said, to be honest. So like, okay, like the whole thing. Okay, so all truths are going to be known at some time,
Yeah.
but like not like at the same time. Of course, I think that's much more reasonable.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's possible that like all knowable truths are known at some time. Like
Yeah.
like do you believe that there's things right now that are undiscovered that will be discovered in the future?
I think definitely that we haven't discovered.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say that. So,
but
yeah, but
like consider like a hypothetical where like humanity gets wiped out tomorrow. Then like there's these future like true statements that nobody will ever know.
I would say that no human would never know. But
there's no
I think,
reason to believe in any other form of consciousness at the moment. Or like let's
I
say
don't know about
all
that.
like
I
something
don't know
causes
about that.
all sentient life, all conscious life in the universe to be wiped out before a certain discovery is made. Like it seems like there's nothing. There's I don't know. There's nothing like that logically rules that out. I guess it just seems like we can't use. I just don't believe that we can use those type of arguments to like refute basic historical knowledge or basic sensory evidence.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's
like I guess for example, like if you think about like Zeno's paradoxes, for example,
Right.
maybe there's problems with those, the like structure of those arguments. But like say hypothetically, we could use some like set of premises to deduce the conclusion that motion doesn't exist. Well, then we see motion. Therefore, there's something wrong with that argument. So like I think
Silvature ambulando, solved by walking, kind of like
exactly.
How,
exactly. So I think I guess I think that we can do the same thing essentially with that argument that you put forward, just by saying, hey, here's something that we didn't know, now we know it. Well, it seems fairly reasonable to assume that there's things we don't know now that we will know in the future, just because things are always being discovered.
Right. Yeah, I would say that definitely like our concept of motion. Now that's something like that definitely can have issues. So, for example, like motion, depending on how you conceive of it, it might imply that motion implies that which moves is in two places in one time, essentially. If you hold like motion to be like a discrete thing, so it can can be some issues with that. Now, you can't deny the fact that I'm walking right now. I go from here to there. But now, on the other hand, though, definitely our concept of motion. Now, that's something that can be definitely challenged, and said to be incoherent or run into a contradiction. Like our concept of time, for example, too. Like past, present, and futurity. Every event is either past, present, or future, and one event can't be more than the other. But one event has to be. It can only be past, present, or future, right? Well, all events are past, present, and future. Now, you might say, well, not all at the same time. So, but let's think of that for a second. So, one event is past in the past, present in the past, and past in the future. Like, I mean, there's McTaggart's paradox is a really cool thing. I don't know if I think you are familiar with it because we have spoken about it in the past, I think, on your server.
Possibly.
Or no, actually in private messages, I think. But that's a interesting little thing with the philosophy of time. But I'm personally not too interested in that kind of stuff, generally speaking. But
I don't know. So I think with time, I guess more just what I think about is just this. I mean, this is how we experience time. It's possible there's something underlying that, like there's like continuous motion, but we kind of experience things as discrete because our brains kind of, or our eyes almost work like cameras, where it's like a certain at least my understanding of the science. I would actually have to like look into that, but it seems
I would
like
say that
they work like cameras where it's like you capture a certain amount of frames every second, basically. But
I would say that our consciousness of time is something which is very, very, very mysterious. Because in a sense, we kind of transcend the present because we have knowledge of the past and the future. In the sense that I know I'm continuous throughout time. I remain self-identical.
Yeah.
I know that I was thinking this thought 5 minutes ago. I know that I'm the same person as I was 5 seconds ago. And this continuity through time that we have, it is so like even like the specious present. So like this, it's kind of like there's a thickness to it. It's like there's a feeling of presentness, and there's a feeling of a transition from past to there's a feeling of transition from from the past into the present, and from the present into the future. There's this feeling about it. There's a thickness about it. And like the discrete or mathematical time, that's something which is much more it's like it's you can't really fit the felt present, right, that we experience into a mathematical timeline, so to speak. I mean, I would even say that there's multiple time series. For example, dream time, the time in our dreams. Now that's a very mysterious thing. How does that relate? How is that time series? Every night when you go to bed, there's a series of events that's occurring, right, that you're dreaming of. How does that map or correspond to your the time of everyone else that at the moment? So everyone else's own subjective time that's like awake.
I guess it seems to go fast, but I think the way, I guess, that we experience time is kind of different because you're not like conscious for those moments, I guess, in the same sense. So it's like maybe like I think there's probably like an underlying sort of time in some sense, and we experience it in different ways depending on our state of mind or like our sensory organs or whatever, because we can't like we can't experience, I don't know, it's weird to talk about like underlying time because it's something we can never really have access to, and it's only something we can speculate about. So I think in that sense it's not all super useful to like speculate a lot about that. Just sort of I guess the way that I think about time is just the way that we experience it, and just not as much about like trying to speculate about what necessarily underlies that, because I don't really think I think what exists,
to define time as well, that's also a problem. What is time? I would say that it's a possibility. Time is the possibility of ordered novelty, I think. Because, like, for example, the possibility of change. Well, what's change? Well, change that already kind of implies time, so that'll be circular. If we say, like, I don't even know if novelty, is that even circular? It probably is. But I think it's, like, for example, the measurement of motion. Well, motion, that already implies time, I would say, changing from place to place. If we talk of time as like the
we can
entropy or something like that,
maybe think about it the way, like the order in which we experience events or something, because I don't know if,
even event, there we go again.
Well, like
event
event would just be like a stimuli, or like the order in which we experience stimuli, maybe.
I don't know about that, because I think that's too mechanistic. It also, too, I think that might be a bit anthropocentric, because there would be order in which we experience. I mean, again, the we there too. That would imply, in this case, like human agents. So the possibility for human agents to experience stimuli, or ordered stimuli, that is. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a very difficult question. But yeah, I think I'm going to let you go.
Yeah, for sure.
and I'll let you get back to your stream.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this was a really fun conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, but nice talking to you. Nice talking to you again. It's been a long time.
Have a good night.
Yep, you as well. See ya.